What is up, everybody? We're doing something a little different. This is going to be a reboot of After the Ride podcast. And in the past, I did some interviews with people, Chase on Two Wheels, Dude on a Motorcycle, and a few other people. And I just kind of rebooted it again, and it was me just answering questions. And that's something I would like to get back into, is answering some of your questions. And the After the Ride stuff is going to be more so me sharing more of like the life stuff, things that I've learned from motorcycling. So if you've ever read the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, it kind of really gives you an idea of how motorcycling can have an impact on your life and a few other things. And it's not as deep as some people like to make it, but it's a great way, especially as motorcycle riders, that it's an easy way to relate to different things. So in the live streams, I like to relate video games. That's something I grew up on as a kid, and defeating bosses, learning new skills, going through that process. It kind of is a way to learn life. And same thing with working out. So the physical fitness, progressive overload, and a few other things. That's another way to appreciate life. So so if we can relate to a lot of these different things. So let's say working out, video games, and riding a motorcycle, skill progression. When it comes to life, it's a lot like going and reading books, taking classes, growing as a person, having unhealthy and healthy relationships where you learn what not to do, what to do, being challenged by these healthy relationships, being challenged to grow with new life circumstances, new chapters in your life. And I like to relate a lot of the motorcycle stuff, the fitness and the video game stuff towards that kind of thing. And another thing that I want to do with the After the Ride is that I do want to make it a weekly podcast. So once again, this is kind of like an intro where I share what I got through in the week. And a lot of this kind of stems from the idea of a lot of us are internet people, right? A lot of us are internet people, and we don't really have that social interaction outside of work, maybe at home, especially men, third places. If you ever read about that or heard about that, where third places are not that common anymore. And a third place is kind of like, back in the day, it was like a bar or like a men's club or something like that, where men got to get together and socialize and communicate and maybe vent here, maybe share things here, find a mentor. So a lot of networking events and stuff like that is kind of replacing a lot of that. But what I want to do with this After the Ride podcast is make it a little bit more interactive, and I'm going to utilize the Discord server. So if you haven't joined that, please do so. And I'm going to try to come up with another channel in there so that we can ask questions and kind of follow up. And it's mainly going to be life stuff. That's really what it is, along with kind of what I've been going on with my life throughout the week. And I've been doing kind of a simple version of that on the live streams, where at the beginning of the live stream, I'll ask everybody what they've done this week. I'll share what I did this week and then what I have coming up this next week. And a lot of you guys have liked that, and a lot of you guys have liked the lifestyle tips or the life tips that I was able to bring. And so let's go ahead and jump into kind of like who I am and what I've gotten through and a few things. Just a really quick summary of who I am as Daniel and DanDanTheFireman. First, I'll expand more on a lot of these things, but this general overview is that really rough childhood. Father, mother, pretty bad in terms of a few things. Great in a few things too, because I always like to look at the good things, but very difficult. And we'll jump into that in a future episode maybe, when it comes to neglect, emotional abuse, and physical abuse and things like that. There was a situation as a child with a peer, someone 5 years older, that there was some other kinds of abuse. We'll jump into that at some point maybe when I feel like sharing that. But then as a firefighter, I joined as a firefighter. My dad was a firefighter for 26 years, and I went through the fire academy, EMT academy, all that stuff, got hired at Yuma Fire Department. Was there for about 9.5 years, went to Northwest Fire District here in Tucson for about a year and a half, including the academy. And with that, there's PTSD. There's a bunch of the other stuff that comes with being a firefighter. So lack of sleep, emotional deregulation, physical stuff. So there's a lot of that stuff. There's some long-term partnerships when it comes to this during that time. So there's a lot of relationship stuff that I had to go through. And in the last relationship, if some of you guys have been here for a very long time, this is when I started doing YouTube, was back in, seriously, probably, I want to say April 2016. And at the time I was with a woman, and I was a stepfather for a while. So about 7.5 years with her, and being a stepfather to a 7 and 8 year old, a boy, 8-year-old, 7 girl, all the way to about 16, 15. And there's a lot of life lessons there, and we can jump into some of that kind of stuff too. And then, so being full-time as an entrepreneur, I guess, and content creator, going into motorcycle riding, I started riding in November 2011, started posting some content here and there, but really taking it seriously April 2016. Some off-roading with Saturday Scrambler stuff, if you were a part of that. A lot of drone footage, a lot of off-roading with the Harley. And then started getting into tips, because I started noticing a lot of people crashing on scene when I was a firefighter. A lot of fatalities, a lot of really bad road rash incidents. And so I just started doing that, and then continuing education. I became an MSF rider coach for about 2 years. I just didn't renew. But I taught classes here at Ride Arizona MTC in Tucson, Arizona. Accident scene management. I took a class, and then I became an instructor because I was still an EMT at the time. I didn't teach a class, but I got all the curriculum, got all the information, got all the knowledge, and I took a few more classes. TECC certified still until August, I think, 2026. So I'd like to renew that. I love that. That is a tactical emergency casualty care. But throughout all of this, I've been really developing a lot of the content and a lot of the curriculum for people knowing how to ride, and focusing on riding safely, using the Smart Rider principles, and a few other things. And so, like, what I'm currently doing right now, this is May 21st at about 7:25 p.m. I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow because I'll be out of town on Friday. So I really wanted to share, like what happened since the last live stream, because that's kind of like how I discuss a lot of these things, is that I did not go to the DGR this year. This is the first year that I haven't gone, and I haven't participated in about 14 different events. Not really happy about it. A little bit of shame involved in there, but I've been heavily focused on the new academy that I've been putting out and a lot of the content. And I've just been overwhelmed with a lot of things. I didn't raise any money this year, which is kind of sad, but yeah, it is sad. I was an ambassador 2 times. I was invited by Mark, the guy that runs the thing, twice, and I guess they'd never done that. Last year I was an ambassador, and I've got helmets here. I can't really show it to you right now because of the camera, but I got 6 helmets for the top 50 fundraisers, and then definitely got 2 of them because of the ambassador. So I had that, and then I had therapy. So I had therapy on Tuesday, which was yesterday. And when it comes to that life stuff, I've been in therapy for about, when did I left the fire service May 2018, so January 2018 is when I started. And so that's what, 7 years? 7.5 years now at this point? It's a long time. So 7.5 years of therapy, at least monthly, sometimes twice a month. And couples therapy, individual therapy for the most part. And it's been really helpful when it comes to the PTSD and all those things that I brought up. And the main goal, like I said, is to kind of share with you like the week and some of the lifestyle stuff, and just kind of understanding what's going on. So I'm just kind of catching you up. So my main focus is living to the values that I have. I do have a set of values, a mission, vision, value, and virtue statement that I created. And it's something I created a couple years ago, and I truly try to live towards that. And it's been really helpful. So I really recommend everyone getting that. Once again, I'm kind of just bringing everyone up. I would love to expand more into this. I'm trying to give you guys some information here so that when I have that Discord channel, maybe we can ask questions. Like if you want to know more about childhood and the mission, vision statement and everything. When it comes to the academy, the main focus on this academy that's coming up and I got the whole thing, writingsmart.com. We got the Smart Writer drills and all that stuff. But the Smart Writer training manual is the main thing here. And I just want to share with you what the goals are when it comes to that kind of stuff. And specifically that is that I was an MSF writer coach for 2 years, and I taught classes and everything. And when I went through the week-long training program that they have, it was up in Phoenix. I was up there for a week. It was every day from 8 to 5. We had to teach an actual class on the Saturday, Sunday that we finished up on. And what I found out is that it's great information. Highly recommend everyone take an MSF class if you can afford it, if you have one local, you have one available. If you're trying to get your endorsement, it's a great class to take. You're going to get your endorsement if you just follow along and you're able to participate and pass everything. Wonderful. The thing I found with that is that they are teaching quite literally to the endorsement. And the big thing there is that you have the endorsement, which is the test. And they teach backwards to it. And that's how most education is. It's like, what's the test? Okay, let's teach backwards. How much time do we have? How much information can we do? And then since it's a business, it's more of a like, how much do we charge for it? And is this something that's passable? And what I found out, because now there's a business aspect to it, is that the testing can it's been the same for a while, but it's not massive. I mean, I get comments all the time when it comes to the UK and people around the world where it's like, oh, in America you could just pass a test and you can get like an H2 and all this stuff. That to me is not a problem. I do believe in freedom. You can choose whatever you want to do. You just have to do the risk assessment. Education, I think, is the problem. And when it comes to education, it's like I said, it's just teaching to the test, which the test is just, it's a straight line weave around like 4 or 5 cones, not a big deal. A U-turn, a tight turn from a stop, emergency swerve, emergency braking. That's it. And so if you could do that, you got your license. There's so much more when it comes to riding on the road. Okay, during the live streams, during all the content that I've produced throughout the years, it's really just comes down to road strategy and driver behavior, understanding other people's behaviors, understanding other people's what they're going to do before they do it. So you perceive that, you're able to respond to it, not react to it, because you want to be able to respond. I think response is a proactive approach to things. Reacting is obviously reacting. So being proactive, reactive. And there's just so much more. They can't really teach you looking for road surface hazards. They do have an obstacle going over 2x4, 2x6 in the course, and so you lift your butt up, not a big deal. They teach you emergency swerving, which is the main skill for obstacle avoidance, but they don't teach you what to look for, how to look for it. They do have the search, evaluate, execute acronym. I prefer the PLAN method. It's based on the OODA loop. Position for safety, locate hazards, assess relevant threats, navigate active threats. And if you watch the live streams, you'll see that all the time. But I like to look for patterns, so open lane pattern, side of the vehicle, and then looking for signage. In America, there's so much signage, crest of the hill, type of all this other stuff. And so for the new course, the Smart Writer Training Manual, of course I want to get you guys the ability to take your endorsement. And one thing I found out when it comes to the United States is that there's really only 2 states that require you to take the MSF to get your endorsement. There's no permit process and all that stuff, and that's Florida and Oregon. Everywhere else, there is a permit process. You can get your permit in practice with some restrictions. Different states have different restrictions. And then there's like half the states that require you to take the MSF to get your endorsement. But you can still practice with a permit. And so basically 48 states that you can practice with a permit. Half the states, I think like 22, 23 states where you don't even have to take the MSF if you don't want to. The other half is, like I said, you can get a permit and then take the MSF. And so what I'm trying to develop here is I want you to get your endorsement, and for those half the states, I want you to be able to have the option There's an alternative, because sometimes the MSF, some states subsidize it where it's basically free or very low cost. In Arizona, you can get a scholarship, but it's very limited. If you can get it, that's great. But when I took the MSF last July, it's May now, it was about $400 a person. And that's basically a helmet and a jacket and maybe gloves. You can almost get all that stuff. And I'd rather you guys get that. And so with the Smart Rider Training Manual, what I'm trying to do is I want you guys to get your permit, because that's going to allow you to ride on the road and with a few restrictions. In Arizona, I think you can't ride at night, can't ride with a passenger. I think you're allowed to ride on the highway, but maybe not. But basically, you can ride on the roads, public roads. So it's legal to do that. And the permit is just a written test. Got your permit, and then you take the endorsement test, which is it's also written, but it's you have to do like those things I just said: straight line weave, U-turn, tight turn from a stop, emergency brake, emergency swerve. So the physical portion of it. So with the Smart Rider Training Manual, if you get your permit, it's just the written test, but you already got a motorcycle, you want to go this route. This is the route I took, and because there's no MSF in Yuma, Arizona at the time. I want you to be able to understand what the motorcycle is. So motorcycle familiarization, so all the controls, primary controls, secondary controls, all the information that I've learned throughout the years as an MSF rider coach, and then also just understanding motorcycles. Understand the motorcycle itself, how to do friction zone braking, practice in your neighborhood. I just did a poll on Discord, and most of you guys, I think it was like 68% so far, live in a neighborhood. Some of you live in an apartment complex and rural roads. I currently live in an apartment, and I want you to be able to practice all this stuff in your neighborhood and in the apartment complex or wherever you're at. And so be able to actually ride the motorcycle around and get familiar with it and practice your endorsement test, the DMV test in this area, so that when you finally do go take your endorsement, because you now have your permit, right? You can actually take your motorcycle to the DMV and do the test real quick and then get your license. And that's just an alternative. I'm not saying don't take the MSF and just do what I'm doing. No, there's, like I said, there's some situations like I had where there's no MSF, there was nothing, I couldn't afford it, blah, 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 all these different reasons. Maybe there's just a bunch of reasons that why you can't do it, but you still want to ride a motorcycle. And that's what I'm trying to create with the Smart Rider Training Manual. And so we have the Smart Rider drills. That's a lot of an parking lot practice where you're able to familiarize yourself with the motorcycle even more. There's a bike bonding class at the MSF where it's a lot like that, but they set up their own stuff. So it's kind of like you're bonding with your bike. You're understanding the limits of the bike, what you can do with the bike, how that functions. It forces you to memorize or even look on the phone with the rock form mount on the handlebars so that you can pay attention to that while also doing this. And that's going to give you that distraction a little bit in a safe environment. It's going to give you that having to focus your brain on what I'm supposed to be doing while using your body to control the motorcycle. And that is something that you do when you're actually riding in town or somewhere else outside of a closed environment. You're actually having to pay attention to signs, road traffic, road behavior, and letting your body take care of the motorcycle. In order for your body to take care of the motorcycle, you have to practice, 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 practice. That kind of comes down to it. Just like with working out, just like with playing video games, you keep dying against the boss. You finally, you understand the controls, you understand what your character can do, and you almost go into a flow state. And it's hard to get into a flow state as a beginner rider or as a beginner in anything because you're so focused on with your prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, where you're trying to figure out what steps are needed. And that's what I noticed in the MSF is that a lot of people, especially in the first day, they're just so focused on making sure the bike is balanced, so focused that they don't crash, so focused that they actually don't stall, that they can shift well, that they can turn well. Second Second day, they do pretty good. And so I'm trying to get you guys through that first day in your apartment complex, in your neighborhood. And if you can somehow take it to a parking lot even safer risk assessment, right? You can still do it there. And so the Smart Rider Training Manual, right now I'm working on the apartment complex version because that's where I'm at. And this is kind of how I will teach somebody if they came over to my place. So let's teach my girlfriend or teach a friend. It's like, I have a motorcycle. We're going to do it here in the apartment complex. We're not going to go anywhere else. Come on over. We're going to have some fun. That's how I'm going to teach it. And then I'm going to work on the neighborhood riding and then the parking lot version. So there's going to be 3 versions to the Smart Rider Training Manual. And right now I'm working on the apartment version. So this should be launching June 30th, end of June. That's the goal. I already filmed basically 4 or 5 chapters of it. So I just wanted to introduce you guys to the After the Ride podcast. I'm hoping to do this every week. And like I said, on the Discord, I'm going to create a channel right after this so I can post this where you can ask questions and I'll answer some of them, and then I'll pull some of those questions to answer here. And like I said, most of the questions that I would like to answer here, because I do answer a lot of motorcycle specific questions on the live stream, I want to answer some when it comes to life itself. Like I said, the DGR, I didn't participate this year, but it's a men's mental health charity, and it's something that it's near and dear to my heart when it comes to health. And I focus on physical fitness or physical discipline, physical health, mental, and spiritual. Those are the things that I focus on. And so I'd like to answer some of those questions here on the After the Ride podcast and be able to express some of those things. So I'll probably pull like 3 questions and spend about 8 minutes each, maybe 5 questions and whatnot. I want to try to keep this under 30 minutes. But I would like to do it weekly. I'm going to be here in the living room here with my backdrop. If you guys, there's Stella right there. But yeah, so this is the first step, and the next one's going to be a lot on topic. It's going to be more topical. So I'm just giving you a quick introduction to who I am. With that said, I hope you guys ride safe, be safe, you have a good evening, you have a good week, and I'll see you guys next time.